Hello everybody, I'm Karon Jr. Welcome to this Let's Play for Aurora 4X, Advanced Features and Gameplay. First of all, please excuse my very rusted English, but I haven't had the opportunity to speak English for a couple of years, but I hope that I will be able to make some sense to you and get back into it fairly quickly. I've been playing Aurora for a couple of years now, and I'm very happy about the small hype that has been created by the current videos about Aurora here on YouTube, because I think Aurora is a really great game. It is sometimes referred to as spreadsheets in space, and this is fairly fitting, in my opinion, concerning the graphics, but as with spreadsheets, there's often more to them than just raw numbers if you know how to look at them and what to do. And I try to show some features which I haven't really seen covered in the videos which I've seen here in the last days, which I think are great, but often fairly basic. But on the other hand, I surely have not seen every video that's out here concerning Aurora, so a lot of those subjects I want to touch upon here might have already been described elsewhere, but I'll give it a shot anyway. I've prepared a brief list here about the subjects I want to discuss over the course of the different episodes of this Let's Play. Naturally, in addition to the gameplay itself. First of all, Aurora is, in my opinion, best described as a story creation helper, because as far as I know, this is mainly why Steve actually developed this game, to help him tell stories, which he did a fairly huge number actually on the Aurora main site, which can be found in the fiction section over there. In order to create different stories, you have to be able to create different backgrounds or scenarios, and this is actually what the Space Master in Aurora is for. It's kind of like a game master for a pen and paper role-playing game. This is what I want to cover in most of the rest of this Let's Play. Throughout those Let's Plays, I'll try to explain my thoughts or strategic reasons for most of the things that I'm doing. For example, some tasks can be more efficiently done by using static bases, which are tied to their targets, instead of using actually moving spaceships, mainly because you save resources, and resources, like in every good strategy game, are a bottleneck, and there are lots of bottlenecks, as we'll see later. Personally, I'm a big fan of warships that are using beam weapons, even though I know that missiles are easier to use and more effective. But on the other hand, they are more resource intensive, and therefore here comes again our friend or future enemy, the bottleneck. And that's why I try to mainly rely on beam weapons, which are way more resource efficient. But since beam ships need a fairly high speed, and high speed equals high fuel usage in this game, a carrier-based task force should fit in quite nicely with the scene, so we discuss the composition of a carrier task force, which parts are important, and other things as well here. Another subject I'll discuss is the use and the benefit of task force officers, which can be established either on flagships or in systems. And one of their actual uses is helping with training crews, which is fairly important here in combat, since untrained crews can take a fairly long time to respond to your orders. And while this is not very important when you're using missiles, because you tend to have quite a lot of reaction time. It is deadly with the short ranges and short reaction times beam combat requires. Another subject will be how to exploit alien ruins, because it's not immediately obvious from the game how to actually exploit them, but those runes can provide some really great benefits, so I think it's a fairly important and interesting subject. And finally, I'll try to explain how to set up a sensor network in your systems, allowing you kind of early warning about enemies entering your system, and how you can scan potential colonies for enemies which are without actually putting your ships or crews into danger, mainly by using a missile which is carrying a buoy as payload. But yeah, enough of this for now. I think let's get into the actual gameplay. First of all, to create a new game, click New Game. Let's call this Advanced. The starting year is unimportant, it's mainly here for cosmetic reasons, but let's stick with 2025. The number of systems, 1000 is a lot, because we will be creating lots of non-player races right at the start. The game will be fairly slow anyway, so I'll limit this number of systems down to 100. The difficulty modifier mainly adjusts how advanced the non-player races will be that you'll be meeting, well, we'll be meeting later in the game. I go for 300% here. Best generation chances, okay. Production cycles, I don't really want to get into the very basic subjects here, so I'll skip this for now. Starting empire, we will be the European Union. I'll talk a little bit about what happened in the last 9 years up to 2025 on Earth, and about the European Union as well. We are humans. Earth will pick at the main empire theme Germany, because they have managed, it's Deutschland actually here, managed to retain their lead through their austerity policy in the European Union. We are a Transatlantic empire, so no conventional start here. Our population of 500 million sounds good. Shipyards, that's all fine, that's fine, that's fine. 5 jump points is fine. We'll start with 200,000 tech points. I'll get into this a little bit later. We want to distribute those points manually. We'll stick with Zone and use the Space Master to add in new NPR opponents. We'll start with Precursors. We'll add the Invaders. Very tough enemies. If we are unlucky and meet them in the first few years, we're almost certainly dead. No additional non-player races at the start. More realistic promotions, political bonuses, okay. Inexperienced fleets, this is where our fleet training will come in. Real world stars, no. And 10 years peacetime, this is important for races which start at the same planet. We'll use some additional races at our planet, or factions on Earth, therefore 10 years sounds okay. Let's create this game. and close this window. Nope. This may take a little while. I'll start a little to tell you a little bit about the backstory I have in mind here. Essentially, Earth, there has not been any great catastrophe or a nuclear war or something like it. Earth is like it as it's today. There are a couple of factions which have evolved, mainly the European Union, the United American States, and China are the races I'll put in here as either NPRs or as played by us. What happened in the last 9 years is that Donald Trump won the elections in the US based on his anti-Muslim, anti-Hispanic, xenophobic agenda. He has not made many friends outside of the US, and the US is kind of getting isolated by the rest of the world. And to make matters worse, Mr. Trump actually decided, why should I put a wall towards Mexico when I simply can take over Mexico by force and stop the immigrants this way and make the Mexicans into second-rate citizens which can do the jobs nobody in America really wants to do. Pretty shortly after he did this, he went to Canada and told them more or less, you can either join me or you die. The Canadians decided to join, so Mr. Trump has established the United American States, consisting of the US, Canada, and Mexico. In the meantime, in Europe, after a couple of economic and political crisis, the European Union has finally gotten or pulled itself together under the lead of Germany. Nothing much happened there, but the German austerity policy is not really liked. So in the US we have a fascist police state led by Mr. Trump. In Europe we have an European Union under the leadership of Germany, which is also not very nice for the rest of the Europeans. And our final power is China. China continued its economic build-up, and after North Korea started to rattle a saber again about using nuclear weapons against South Korea, the Chinese finally got fed up, sent some agents towards the North Korean nuclear missiles, sabotaged them in the end, and then invaded the country, got rid of Kim Jong, whoever he is at the moment. I have to admit, I don't recall his name, but about the little mad dictator down there, and integrated North Korea despite having no real economic advantages, but they wanted to stabilize the area. So we currently have 3 major empires, union states, whatever you want to call them. In the year 2020, an alien ship arrived in the orbit of Earth, about 100 meters long, 10,000 tons of weight, and they sent a message down to Earth about the destroyers that are coming and that Earth should prepare for their arrival. In order to help Earth, they provided some technical expertise, knowledge. One of the main points of this expertise was the knowledge about Transiltonian minerals, which have properties previously unknown to mankind, but which will greatly help them to establish their place among the stars. But those aliens warned the citizens of Earth as well that the destroyers will be looking for any highly evolved life forms which might pose a threat to them in the long run, and therefore they told the citizens of Earth to convert their industries, get ready, get prepared, but don't launch any long-range spaceships using those Transiltonian minerals before the year 2025. Because by then most of the scans the destroyers are supposed to carry out should be over, so Earth should have some more time with the destroyers not coming for them, but immediately, but only coming for them when Earth starts to explore other systems and stumbles upon the destroyers. This is the background for this game. Not a lot, but kind of possible, I think. Okay, let's start the game and take a look at the main page. Okay, this is our solar system. Somewhere around here we have Earth, but this will not be our subject for the moment, but creating the other races or other factions I've talked about earlier. For this we'll use the system view. Due to the fairly large number of comments, this will take a little while. We are starting on Earth. Earth is habitable, great, but what we want to do is add additional races. For the additional races we need Space Master mode on. I should have done this earlier because most often those screens don't refresh automatically. So close it again, open it again. Okay, and as you see we have quite a number of additional options. One of those options is Create Empire. So we click on Earth, click Create Empire, and now we can add a new empire. Let's start with the former US, United American States. Short name States. Species humans. Main empire theme is United States. Commander theme is United States as well. We're on Earth, it's a Transiltonian Empire, it's a non-player race. The population about the same as ours, 500 millions, which are not really people, but it's a mixture of the industrial capacity, technological capacity, and actual number of people. So Earth will have a modified population of about 2.5 billion in the end, distributed fairly equally between the United American States, China, the European Union, and another millions of a billion neutral citizens. Okay, what do we have here? We add some more world's creation rate for the NPRs because they tend to have some problems concerning world's creation, which limits their research. The rest is fine. They get additional tech points as well. The European Union, us, got 200,000 since the AAI or the NPRs are not fairly efficient with assigning their Research points, we'll add some to them. Let's put them at 300,000. The rest is okay. Press Create Empire. This will take a little bit as well. Yeah, right. Waiting. After this, we create China and the neutrals. Okay, here we go again. You don't have to close the screen, but I like to close it because then I know when it's actually done with creating the additional empire. The next one, Chinese. Yeah, Federation is okay. They are humans as well. The main theme is China, Chinese, China. There we go. Commander theme is China as well. Chinese in this case. Another NPR, 500 million as well. 200 wealth creation rate as well, and 300 research points for them. Okay, create empire. Working. And when this is done, we create the neutrals. What's the role of the neutrals here? They're not an active faction in contrast to the Chinese and Americans, but they serve, we call them neutrals. Empire short name neutrals as well. They're humans as well. Then NPR, and down here you can set them to neutral race. They're mainly there for providing colonists for the active player races or NPRs, but those colonists can't be used in the Sol system, but only outside of the Sol system. So you load them onto colony ships and ship them outside of the system, and they provide additional population. Because population is another of the bottlenecks mentioned earlier, as is wealth. This is the reason why we're giving some extra wealth to the NPRs to help them with their growth. Okay, 1,000 of them. They have no industry, no real industry, no tech. So this is fine. Create empire. The final step, which is still missing, is setting up Earth as home world minerals-wise, because with 3 active races with 500 millions each, the minerals would be mined out fairly fast otherwise. So we will specify minerals and roughly at 3 times the original numbers, so we get about 550,000 tons of uranium, and we'll add to the accessibility so that it can be mined much better than at lower accessibilities. Let's put the neutronium at 240,000, carbamide at 210,000, titanium 450, boronite 400, magnesium 160, vanderite 210, thorium at 360, iridium 280, coronium 540, and gadesite at 280. All of them at the highest accessibility of 1 or 100%. Okay. Okay. Okay, save changes. So we are done. Maybe a little bit extra about our European Union. German is fine, the flag is okay, you can select different images, but I'll stay with Bruce Boxleitner, I think it is. Here's an important feature, training level. The higher your initial training level of your crews is, the better they are at performing their tasks and at doing their training or lowering their training times. The max level is 5. We will use this max level because having good crews is very important. One of the most important things actually in this game, considering combat in my opinion. Here we have a couple of Empire technology stats, which are the base stats at the moment because we have not started to distribute our tech points yet. Here we see some environmental tolerances for our race, so we can settle different planets which fall into those tolerances. As we'll see later, there are not that many planets which fit ideally to our tolerances, so terraforming them or searching harder for more suitable planets will be a very important part of this game. I'm never actually sure which save button is the right save button or if I need any save at all, but just to be sure, I click them all. Okay, next step about our race. We have a couple of tech points to distribute. The 200,000 we gave ourselves at the beginning of the game. And there are a couple of different categories. And essentially all of them are fairly important. But since we are limited with our tech points, and they aren't that much, as we'll see later, we have to make some choices about what to actually research here, or how our game start should look like tech-wise. Okay, at the beginning, none of those bio and genetic tags are very important, so we'll skip them for now and take a look if we have some points left over for them later. Construction production is very important, and even more important if I take a closer look at my scientists here. I have a fairly limited field of specializations for them. It's sensors and fire control, power and propulsion, another sensors and fire control specialist without any bonus, this is bad, and a missile and kinetic weapons specialist without any bonus as well. What does this bonus do? As you can see here, if a scientist has a research bonus, he'll provide 4 times this bonus if he is used inside his field of specialization. So if I use Ellen von Borcherding inside the fields of sensors and fire control, she will not just provide a 20% research bonus, but an 80% research bonus, which is huge. You want to use specialists inside their fields unless you have no alternative. And if we wanted to actively research any construction production later in the game, we would have to use somebody else. Okay, what do we have here? Construction rate is essentially how much our factories are producing. Important, we want some of that. And I'll click instant. Yes, we want to give it to the European Union. As you can see, there's a new research field, construction rate 14 build points, and the 3000 points we have just used to instantly give us the technology have been deduced from our starting number. What do we have here? Mining, another very important potential strategic bottleneck in the long run. We want better mining. Up this to 14 tons, 16 tons. Yeah, let's stick with 16 tons for now. Construction rate will up this to 14 for now, because basically at the beginning we have a fair number of resources, we have a fair number of wealth, which we can use to start the game, but in the long run we'll run out of wealth, we'll run out of resources, we'll run out of fuel, we'll run out of manpower, we'll run out of pretty much everything if we don't take care to keep those strategic resources stocked up. So high mining production is important. High construction rate is important because we'll use construction to build the installations which produce our strategic goods. Research rate is always important because the higher our research rate is, logically, the faster we get new techs. So we up those to 280 for now. Shipbuilding rate means how fast can we build ships. We get into this a little bit more in depth later, but for now it is important. We add some to our shipbuilding. Thorium harvesters. Thorium is a fuel resource. As I mentioned earlier, fuel is another potential bottleneck. So being able to harvest fuel from the atmosphere of gas giants, this is what a thorium harvester does, is fairly important as well. Yes. Maybe we'll come back later to add some other projects here or improve our techs. Yeah, fuel production is fairly important as well. So we add some of those. Meanwhile, we have spent 60,000 of our 200,000 research points. Let's take a look at the next fields. Technologies. Shields are nice, but not that important in the beginning. Cloaking theory, great for later game. Damage control, not that important for now, so we just stick to armor. Armor is quite useful because it allows our ships to take some punishment, and since we are using beam ships, it is very likely that we will get hit. And the better our armor protection is, the lighter our armor protection is, the more other systems our ships can use and carry. So armor, yes, please, some of this. Composite armor. Let's stick with composite for now. We'll see if we have any points left later. Okay, energy weapons. Since we are using beam-based ships, we want some beam weapons, naturally. There are different kinds of beam weapons, mainly lasers, mesons, microwaves, carronades, something like big plasma cannons, particle beams. They have a fairly good range, but don't do a lot of damage. In my opinion, one of the best all-around weapons is the laser. The Mason is a very nice weapon as well. It's bypassing shields and armor, so essentially once you get in range, you will hit and hurt the enemy. You will hurt him if you can hit him. Maybe I should put it this way. But their range is fairly short, and the laser has a fairly decent range. Not as much as a particle beam, but more than the laser. Microwave is a special kind of beam weapon, essentially fooling up the enemy's electronic systems. It's nice if you try to board ships or just disable them, but for now, in the beginning, we just want to destroy the enemy ships. So we add some lasers, 15 centimeters, yeah, okay. We don't have a lot of points, that's a big problem. Spinal mount allows you to produce a bigger laser than you, or a bigger weapon than you would usually be able to, but you're limited to only having one spinal mount on your ship. But considering we're using carrier-based fighters and fast attack craft, spinal mount is a good choice, so we take it. Visible light lasers. The wavelengths of the laser will determine the range, and the higher the range is, or range is not just important because of the range itself, but because at shorter ranges the higher wavelength will cause more damage because the laser particles will not disperse as easily as with shorter wavelengths. In physics, it's actually the other way around, if I recall correctly, but that's not important. Okay, give us some additional wavelength. Where's the jump to? Near ultraviolet. Okay. Let's jump ahead. What do we have here? Boat base. They are the bases for hangar base, which we will need for our carrier. Hangar deck, here it is. Very important for carrier task force. What else do we have here? Orbital habitat modules. Yeah, they can be very important for the bases I've talked about earlier. So yes, please, some of those. Ship-to-ship tractor beam. Yes, we'll need those to pull those bases into place, since there will have no engines themselves. What else do we have here? Improved command and control. Fairly important in my opinion, since it will allow you to add an additional administrator to your system, called sector in this case, which will provide additional benefits, but we'll get into this later as well. What else? Salvage modules would be nice, but we'll take a look at them later. Construction brigades. Yes, they will be important in order to excavate those alien ruins. Not everybody can do it. So, one of those as well. Troop transport base. Yes, they will be needed to actually shuttle our ground troops over to alien ruins in order to excavate them. Missiles. We don't want to be largely missile based, but we want to have some missile bombers. So we'll need missiles. We'll want improved warheads. Essentially, improved warheads means more damage for the same weight, or if I want to cause a certain number of damage points, I can lower the weight. Each multiplier here says how much damage is caused by 1 point of missile size. So here 1 point would generate 3 damage. It's a bit on the low end. We want at least 4 damage. Let's see if we can squeeze some more in later. We need a magazine for our missiles. So we have to get those two technologies. Missile agility is not that important. Gauss cannon, yeah. Since we are not relying on missiles, but a lot of our enemies will rely on missiles, we need missile defenses. And those missile defenses are best, in my opinion, in the form of Gauss turrets, because those turrets are able to defend all of the ships in the fleet if those ships stay close together, instead of other systems like CVIS, which have been discussed in some of the Let's Plays I've seen, which just defend the ships the missile is actually aimed at. So Gauss turrets are an area defense in a way, while CVIS is just a single ship defense, and we want area defenses for our fleet. So we take some Gauss cannon attacks. I'm not sure how high we can go here, because we are down to 74,000 points, which is not that much, and we have still a fair number of attacks to cover. We'll need smaller sized missile launchers, because we are talking fighter bombers carrying missiles here. They will just have one reload. This is called a boxed launcher, which means our fighter bombers will have to return to the carrier to pick up new missiles and then go back toward the enemy. They have no means of internal reload. But this makes for a fairly small launcher, so instead of just one launcher for one size point, we can put one launcher in for 0.15 size points. So a factor of 6 to 7, which is nice, because if we are using missiles, we want to use lots of them in order to prevent the enemy from shooting all of our missiles down with their own missile defenses. Okay, take this one. Power and propulsion, very important. We are using beam ships, and one of the most important features of beam ships is speed. If you don't are faster than the enemy, and if you're not outrange him, you'll essentially not be able to damage him, because he just can kite you all the way till your ship is destroyed. And if you try to run, he'll catch you and destroy you. So we want some decent speed. Currently there are no engines themselves here, because there's an interaction between reactors and engines. First we have to research the pebble bed reactor in order to get where it is nuclear pulse engine technology, which is fairly slow. So we want to get better than this, so another reactor technology and ion drive technology, which is still fairly slow, but as you can see, we are down to 28,000 research points here, and we have still some ground to cover. For example, we need jump point theory. You can assume that the friendly aliens that gave us all this technology would surely have included jump points. They've already implied that there are other systems out here, and jump points are the means to get into those other systems. So get this as well. Engine power modifier, yes, it's important because we want speed, especially for our fighters and missiles. And the higher the power modifier is, the faster our engines will be. The drawback here is faster engines, higher modifiers use more fuel. So getting at least some additional fuel efficiency is fairly important as well, in my opinion. Just 19,000 points left. This is not good. For our lasers, we need a slightly better capacitor recharge rate, which means how often can our laser fire in a certain interval, or to put it otherwise, how much energy can our lasers reload in the time of 5 seconds. The more power it can reload, the more often it can shoot in 5, 10, 15, 20. We'll have to see it during the actual construction of our lasers, what this means. Okay, there's still one research field left, but we have a fairly decent expert for sensors fire controls. And the bad thing is we need a lot of this stuff in here. And I have just 17,000 points left. Anti-grav sensor strength basically means how strong our active sensors are, which we are using to look for enemy spaceships. We need more than this. Beam fire control range, how far we can actually shoot with our beam weapons. We need more here as well. This is not important in the beginning. Sensitivity. Yeah, this is the second component of an active sensor. The first is the pure power. This is the sensor strength, and the second is how sensitive are our sensor readings, how much or how far out can we actually sense enemy ships out there. So yes, we need more here as well. Fire control speed rating governs how fast our beams are able to track enemy ships, or to put it another way, what kind of speed of enemy ships our beam weapons or fire controls are able to track. 2000 is not a lot, so we need this. We will need gravitational survey sensors in order to see those jump points I've talked about earlier. So in order to find the points where the space-time continuum is weak enough to allow instant travel between different star systems. Just 7,500 points left, so essentially I think we are done with the techs the friendly aliens have provided to us. Okay, we'll use those. We'll use the remaining points to construct some actual weapons, actual engines, because at the moment all we have are theories. We will have to construct some actual designs, which is done via this button, for all kinds of different ship installations. But I think if I take a closer look at the clock here, I cover this in the next Let's Play. So for now, thank you for listening. If you have any comments, please feel free to post. I try to get this a little bit better organized the next time, but as I've seen, it's much harder to actually do a Let's Play than think about doing it and how to do it. Okay, thank you very much. Bye bye.